our activities, and you will see that humanitarian response is a call for the Red Cross, and that is the reason why the Red Cross was established, was founded. Today, let's start with the state capital. Within Oshimili houses, you will see that these communities that are within the bank of the River Niger are flood prone, and over the years from 2012 to date, they've been perennial flooding, and which means people have been displaced, there have been humanitarian consequences, negative ones for that matter, and then the Red Cross has come in to attend to people. And when we attend to people, one thing we do is dignified response program. And how do we do dignified response program? Ensuring that people's dignity are not just protected, but also strengthening. How do we strengthen people's dignity? For instance, when we give cash, it increases the dignity of the people to be able to go to market and purchase. They now have purchasing power. They now have power, authority over their will to decide what they want. This cash given to them, it strengthens their dignity. Aside that, the humanitarian activities of the Red Cross does not just lie in cash, both in food and non-food items. For instance, you could see that we don't just strengthen people's dignity. We go ahead to carry out other activities, like for instance, we have the vulnerability and capacity assessment for Elenshele, Umiligboma, Anala, and Obioku. We did the first phase of enhanced vulnerability and capacity assessment program in 2023, and as I speak to you, we just rounded up the second phase. It is a multi-sectorial assessment that creates room for people to know their capacity and then also know their vulnerability, and community will be able to see where they will be able to come in. It is all about strengthening community resilience and reducing community vulnerability.
Okay. You said something about strengthening community resilience. Now, Trainer Charles, during some of my studies, I've come to understand that the activities of the Red Cross do not just cut across urban areas. Rural areas are also involved. But in carrying out these activities, I was also made to understand that the bane of these activities lies in volunteerism in the Red Cross globally. So how are the capacities of these volunteers built to ensure that, they also carry out the activities of the Red Cross in line with the guiding fundamental principles?
Okay, thank you very much. Before I answer that, let me just add to the issue of dignified distribution or service to humanity. For every program, every Red Cross intervention, we have what we call community engagement and accountability. The communities are engaged to make sure that they take ownership of the program, that the program is not one-sided. We don't come to you with what we have that you don't need. We come to you with what we have that we have mutually agreed that this is what we have and you need them. And in this way, you give dignity to these persons who will be receiving this support. Also, we don't invite people to come out of their community because they want to benefit from the Red Cross program. We go to them. So it's another way of telling you, no problem, we understand that you have vulnerability in this area. We will come to you because the Red Cross is a sure sign of hope. Now, coming down to our training, strengthening volunteers' capacity.
Yes.
Whatever program the Red Cross will be carried out, the volunteers who will be assigned such responsibility must be trained. Their capacities must be built in the area they are going to carry out such. So for instance, we are going to distribute food items. So we have trainings on how the lines will be managed, how the registration will take place, the tools that will be used. So they have first-hand knowledge of how this will take place. And if for instance we are going to any community to do community response on first aid, disaster management, their capacities are built on a regular basis. Annually meet every August. We have the opportunity of coming together, all Red Cross youth from across the federal government of the state will come together in a week-long training program where we have trainings on first aid, disaster management, leadership, infection prevention and control, skill acquisition, and a whole lot of other. I tell you, if there is one organization that really focuses on building capacities of volunteers, you can think of the Red Cross.
In addition to that, we also have a policy. We don't just build capacity or strengthen their capacity. We also have a volunteer policy for the Nigerian Red Cross Society. And this policy states that every volunteer before deployment is entitled to equipment. What is that equipment? First and foremost, capacity building for the volunteer.
Okay, great. So you were talking about the impact the Red Cross has made, most especially in the rural areas, the hard to reach areas. Now, and I know that, like I said earlier, I said the bane of volunteerism lies on the volunteers, because the officers, I need to understand, cannot be at everywhere at the same time. But can you share examples where, let's say, community-led actions has reduced, let's say, the impact of a disaster, probably flood or something of that nature?
Now, naturally, and
what are those?
These are actions that are geared towards limiting the consequences, the impact of a disaster on a community. For instance, working with relevant government agencies, we've started doing what we call cash for emergency evacuation, where we get information, where we get reliable information from climate that the flooding is coming up within the next 3 days or within the next 1 week, and then we look at our water gauge within the water line, and then we see the uprising. Immediately the Red Cross goes into distribution of cash. Before then, we've already done registration for the community. What does it mean? It means that vulnerable persons within the water line cannot evacuate themselves easily, look for shelter within highland, and then put their families there. After the water goes down, they return back to their family. That way there will be no loss, there will be no injury, there will be no damages to properties, food, land, or what have you. So Red Cross action has really led to strengthening response capacity of communities. You will also see that not just giving cash. For instance, there was a community that was at the verge of being submerged by flooding. Because we've observed that within the last 3 years, this community has been submerged by flooding. What do? The canal was blocked. We worked with government agencies, we worked with other partners to ensure that these canals the waterways were cleared. And immediately the flood came in, the waterways had already been cleared. The community was no longer submerged, wasn't submerged for that particular year. So you begin to see that these little actions are strengthening the coping capacity of community. You can also see that today, if you go to the community, there is reduction in disease outbreak. Why? Because we are now doing what we call hygiene promotion program. For 3 good months, for 90 days, Red Cross volunteers were doing door-to-door hygiene sensitization. We did not just do sensitization, we distributed sanitation materials, which include waste bin, which include wheelbarrow, cutlasses, reboot, shovels, and all that, rakes, to communities. They were able to clear the environment within school. Communities were supported for environmental sanitation, and this has gone a long way to reduce disease outbreak within the community. Today you can see that community members now go to community health centers more, because the Red Cross here within the community has gone around to sensitize. The best place community meetings.
Great. So Trainer Charles, time is no longer our friend. Okay. But quickly, humanitarian aid, because of the Delta State where there are, because of them, access to road and all of them. So how do you ensure that this humanitarian aid gets to those in need? Talking about probably widows, those who are farmers, humanitarian aid gets to those people